Hi everybody, Jenny here. I'm just going to say that again because lately YouTube has been cutting me off even though I wait until it says I'm live. So hi everybody, Jenny here, also known as New York on some parts of the internet. No, I'm not going to stop and start this again because this is my one take tutorial series in which I do a workshop, teach a song, talk about a ukulele topic, while live streaming, and there's not really much editing that goes into this unless something super catastrophic happens because I'm not a video editor. I'm a humble ukulele teacher and sometimes songwriter, and I like to create these videos, but I'm not going to get much higher in quality than this um, with the day jobs that I have. So I'm happy to sit down and create some ukulele content. Thank you very much to my Patreon patrons who help support me doing this. And I'm here for a July 2025 workshop on my arrangement of the Simon and Garfunkel song written by Paul Simon, America. Happy 4th of July. I picked this song for July because it is a great song. It's not terribly hard to play. There's a lot of chords in it, which we'll look at, but the strumming pattern, or the rhythm at least, you can choose how to strum it how you like, but the rhythm is pretty straightforward, and we're just going to work through it today. And if it's the kind of song that you might like to inject into your 4th of July, whether you are in the US, whether you celebrate or not, then it's a great song regardless for everybody. So in this series, I like to share how I like to play a song, but of course this changes over time, as we will talk about today, and it also doesn't have to be the way you play a song. So my goal is always to give you ways to approach the song, talk about how I chose to play it. I share with you the example. There are links to actually 2 times that I have covered this song previously in the description box, and you can get the chords and a PDF for free on Patreon. You do not need to be one of my Patreon patrons to get that. I do have some exclusive Patreon content, so if you want to join me over there for 1 month or more, every little bit helps me do more content like this and get better at doing YouTube video introductions, which I'm still very clunky at, but the whole point is to have fun playing our ukuleles, right? So I hope you like this song. You'll be able to use the timestamps in the description box and also in a pinned comment to jump around if you like, so that you don't have to listen to me explain a topic that you already know all about or are not interested in. But let's get going. So I will be sharing chords on the screen, but not always. So you might want to grab the PDF for yourself before you get going. Again, you can get that from Patreon, totally free of charge. And then I will sometimes have it on the screen, sometimes not, because sometimes I want you to be able to see my hands a little bigger. Also, I am playing with a low G strung concert ukulele today, but you can play the song on high G too, in case you're wondering. So let's take a look at the arrangement and talk about it. I will also say while I'm pulling this up that this is a song that I've covered a couple of times. It's a song I've always loved. I love Simon and Garfunkel. I love the way that Paul Simon writes songs. A big fan. But Paul Simon does not sing in the same keys that my voice likes to be in for the range that his songs are. I have a whole series on transposing songs from one key to another and all the many ways you can do that I will link to in the description box. But when a song has chords that doesn't work for your voice, like this may not be the right key for you, and in fact it's still a little low for me. I tried to split the difference between easier to play on ukulele and easier to sing with my vocal range, but we can change keys and look for other ones that work for us. And do various things to do that. But when I first started playing the song, I didn't know how to do any of that. I was probably in my first year of playing. I just knew I wanted to play the song. I ended up using a capo and playing all the way up in the 4th or the 5th fret to get up high enough with the chord shapes that I was using. And I don't even know if it was these same chord shapes, but if you listen to the linked original cover of this, it sounds almost mandolin because it's so high up on the neck. So a year or so later I played it again, and I knew enough to take it down into a key that I could sing a little better, but I'm actually still, I think I've detuned my instrument so that I'm playing these shapes, but I'm actually singing it in F or something like that, or the other direction. Maybe I'm singing it in A. I think that's it. I actually took it up just a little higher than this one that we'll be doing today. Today I'm not going to do anything fancy with my ukulele. I'm not going to tune up or down. It's going to be the regular low G tuning, G, C, E, A. I checked it before I went live. But we will be playing it in this key of G, and if this isn't the right key for you, there's lots of things you can do to change keys. Look for my transcription series or leave me a question in the comments if you have more questions about that. But you will hear it's a little low for my voice in this key, but it is the key that we do it in my free monthly play-along jams that I do online, which if you haven't joined me before, quick little plug, they're totally free. There are 2 that are more beginner friendly and 2 that are more mixed level. I believe this song is in the mixed level songbook because it has a few extra chords in it, more than I would put in a beginner songbook. But you can always join us for one of those. The calendar goes up every month on my Patreon in a public post. So again, you don't need to be a Patreon patron to join me, but thank you to the patrons who do, so that we can do more content together. So I just tilted my camera down a little bit so you can see my instrument a little better, and let's look at how this song works. There is a flow to a song that it's good to discuss because it kind of lets you know how much you'll be learning if you haven't played this song before or you're exploring it in a new way. We're going to start with an intro, and we're also going to have an outro, and they're not exactly the same, but they're pretty similar. You see, they start out with the same run of chords: G, G major 7, E minor, G, C, C sus4, and then you either do a couple more C's for the intro or you end on a single G in the way that I play it. Again, you can make a lot of adjustments to this. I'm just going to be sharing with you what I like to do currently. There is a verse. Let us be lovers. We walked off to look for America. That sound of America is going to come back in, sort of like a little refrain at the end of the verse. So we kind of have a verse with a refrain at the end, and then another verse and refrain at the end. The words are slightly different, but the tune is the same on that refrain. It's walked off to, I've come to, look for America. Then there is what I would probably call a bridge, laughing on the bus, playing games with the faces. That whole section I would call the bridge. And then we go back to the verse again. And instead of singing something like something something to look for America, we do the moon rose over an open field, which has the same chords and a similar melody, but not the same lyrics. And then we do this little transitional, that's at the end of the first verse and the third verse, the C, C sus4, C. So you'll have that there. And then we have one more verse, Cathy, I'm lost, I said, and that one does end with a more familiar refrain, they've all come to look for America. And then we have a couple more repeats of the refrain line, all come to look for America in this case, and then there's your outro. So this is a very verse heavy song. Once you learn that verse, you've got almost the whole song because the refrain, the repeated part, is contained in the song. So that's kind of cool. You've got kind of a structure of A, B, A, and then, like an A plus at the end here with more refrain, or A and a half, you could say at the end. So the next thing I like to do often with a song like this is to look at just the chords themselves and see what's more familiar, what might be not so familiar to you. You can always practice chord shapes before you start working on the song in rhythm, and a good way to do that too is to strum through the song with single strums, which we can do sections of the song in just a minute. But if you're more of a beginner player, this song might be a little daunting for you, but I want to reassure you that there's a very straightforward rhythm to it. So once you've got these chords under your fingers, it's pretty playable. You probably, as a beginner, some of the first 5 chords you learn usually include a G, a one finger C, an A chord for sure, and then usually the D sneaks in there pretty quickly too. So you've got some nice solid beginner chords here, and then we're building on those with some beginner 2 chords like the E7, like the E minor 7 and the E minor. It's pretty helpful to learn those usually within the first 6 months of playing if you can. There's no timeline, of course. You can take longer or go faster, but you'll have a lot more songs you can play once you add in the E minor especially and a few other chords. Then there's some less typical chords, but ones that do tend to come up, especially in songs that are a little bit more jazzy or a little bit more musically complicated, but they're not super hard chords. I would say that the bar chord shape can be tricky for people in which you cover all 4 strings with one finger, or in this case, you could also stack your 4 fingers on your fretting hand across the 2nd fret for that B minor 7 and play it that way. So you've got 2 shapes that you could do that bar with. And I have a whole video on bar chords if that's helpful to you and how to play them. The other unusual chords in here that are not impossible, but just you may not have seen yet if you're more of a beginner, and if you've seen them, you can skip ahead, are this 3-finger G major 7, which I stack, but you could also do a partial bar, So you could do one finger per string, or you could take one finger and lay it across the C, E, A. The C sus4 is adding on to your C with a suspended note, and it is the first fret of your E string. So you're adding that to your C chord. Lovely hanging in the air, suspended sound. A lot of times you'll go from that chord back to a C. If you see a suspended chord or a sus chord in a song and you don't feel like playing it, you can usually get away with just playing the non-sus version. So you could play a C in this song where it says C sus4, but it's not hard to add your index finger once you get used to it. So it's a great one to try. There's also a one finger C major 7, which you might notice is on the 2nd fret instead of the 3rd fret of the A string. So it's just one step down, jazzy chord, lovely jazzy sound. E minor 7 is part of your G chord. It's like as if you play your G chord without that ring finger reaching around to the 3rd fret of the E string. So that's your G, that's your E minor 7. Again, these 7 chords sound a little bit more unfinished, sort of like the suspended chord in a way. So those are all the chords we have. I don't usually go into great length when showing you how to play each individual chord. If that's something you need, let me know and I can make separate videos. I also do have a beginner toolkit video that's kind of like your first lesson. If you're a brand new beginner and this is already too much for you, you could skip over and check out that video. All right, so let's do a little bit of a single strum through the verse section and through the bridge of the song, and also through the intro. Since the intro and the outro are so similar, we'll wait till the very end to do the outro. Now, a note on the timing of this song, because if you listen to my earlier covers, I was actually not getting the timing right, which is interesting. You know, you don't always look up what they call time signature, or the sort of the rule of thumb for how the rhythm of a song flows. And if you don't know anything about time signature, that's okay. If you want me to make a video about time signature, let me know. But in general, a lot of the songs we play in ukulele jam groups and, you know, on our own even, a lot of songs we hear, pop and rock songs, are what we call 4/4. 4 beats per measure. If you don't know what that means, that's okay. But also your quarter note gets the 1, and that's also okay if you don't know what that means. But there's also something called waltz time, which you might have heard of. That's 3/4, 3 beats per measure, but the quarter note gets the full beat. And then there is this song, which is in 6/8 time, but I was not initially playing it like it was in 6/8 time. So if you listen to my older covers, I should probably make a new one, because my older covers, I treated this song as if it might have 2 beats or 4 beats, but it's actually more like 6 beats in this song. It's got a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which is a lot closer to the waltz. In fact, it can be mistaken for waltz very easily. And you can think of it in 6 or in 3, kind of whatever works for you. And so in this particular song, now when I play it, when I lead it in our public jams, I do a down, down, up strum. And we'll do that more of that in a few minutes. I just want to give you a heads up that this song is in 6 or 3. So if you're wanting to do that strum along with me later, it's going to go like this. And I'll just do it on no chords for a minute. So I'm just loosely holding my fingers. Actually, let me take it off the screen here. I'm going to loosely hold my fingers around the neck of the instrument so that I just am barely touching, so that it makes a scratching sound when I stroke for the strum. So instead of, say, your island strum, your rock strum, your, you know, of course you can do single strums. We'll do that in a minute. But it's more of a 1, 2, and 3, and 1, 2, and 3. And you can count this in 6. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6, and or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But I think of it as a 1, 2, and 3, and 1, 2, and 3, and you go down, 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 up, down, up, down, down, up, down, up. So that's the pulse, and I do lean into that down a little bit. 1, 2, and 3, and 1, 2, and 3, and that helps me keep the rhythm flowing in this song. So think of it that way. But for now, let's do some single strums. I just wanted to give you that heads up, because if you listen to my covers, they're not correct in the way the song works in terms of timing. They were me doing my best. That was long before I started teaching. And I'm, you know, not embarrassed by them because I didn't know any better. But now that I know better, I can actually play this in the more correct rhythm. So, but that's also a good sign to you too, that you can get away with a lot of stuff. You can play songs that aren't really the timing that it's supposed to do, supposed to be, and have fun with it. You know, again, keep it fun for yourself. So let's take the intro, the first verse, and strum through that, and then we will skip down. Well, no, let's not do that because that might be confusing. Let's just do the first half of the song because that'll get us all the sections. We'll do the intro, we'll do the first 2 verse sections. They end slightly differently. And one we're going to have this little C sus transition, and the other one we're not going to. It's going to end with G major 7, so that's good. They'll show you the difference between those 2 things. And then we'll do the bridge. And we're just going to do single strums. So I'm going to count for myself the 1, 2, and 3, and 1, 2, and 3. And I'm going to change each time after 3 beats. I've got all the chords written in here. Hopefully we don't find an error, but if we do, I will fix it on the page. 1, 2, and 3, and then we'll move on to the next chord. And we can do it a little slow, a little under tempo. You can always speed me up using the YouTube gear icon. You can change the speed of this video if you need to go a little faster. But for those of you who are beginners or real new to this song, it might be helpful to go a little slower than would really be comfortable playing it, ultimately. So let's try 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 2, 3. 2, 3. 2, 3. 2, 3. C. 2, 3. Sus. 2, 3. Another C. Here we go. Let us be lovers. We'll marry our fortunes together. You hear it go low in my voice. 2, 3, C, 2, 3, C. This is going to be real low. I've got some real estate here in my bag bar. So we bought a pack of cigarettes. And this is Wagner pie. See, there's an error I found for myself. And walked off to look for America. I'll write those changes in just a second. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, another C, 3, Cathy, I said as we boarded the Greyhound to Pittsburgh, in Pittsburgh. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Michigan seems like a dream to me now. It took me 4 days to hitchhike from Saginaw, and I, 2, 3, counted to look for America. Here's the bridge. 1, 2, 3. Laughing on the bus, playing games with the faces. 1, 3, 1, 2, 3. She said the man in the gabardine suit was a spy. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. I said, be careful, his bow tie is really a camera. 2, 3, 2, 3, C. 2. We're going to end at the end of this stanza. Okay, so this is an older song sheet of mine, and one thing that I have tried to do less as I have started making more song sheets and teaching more is what I did in this song, which was I didn't always write it in if you played a chord a couple times in a row with that 1, 2, 3 beat. I started out by writing them all in, and then there's some places where I didn't, so I obviously let myself go a little bit. But again, this was an older song sheet, and it's actually good to practice. I'm not just saying that, but you will get song sheets of all varieties from different people and different places on the internet and different kinds of books. Sometimes they're only going to show you where you change chords, and you're going to play an unknown number of patterns in between those 2 chords, sometimes only once, sometimes even half, sometimes many. So you got an example of that when we got to So We Bought a Pack of Cigarettes. I've written the E7 in twice here, but I forgot to do, or I didn't do it, didn't necessarily forget, but I didn't do it for So We Bought a Pack. So the rhythm of that goes 1, 2, so we bought a hack of, and then you change. So there's actually another B minor 7 that's coming in on bot. So what I can do here, just so that you'll have it on your sheet when you're looking at this, it'll already be written in, because I will put this in here before I even give you access to this lesson. So I can make it a little smaller here, so it goes off to the side. So we've got so we bought a pack of cigarettes, and this is Wagner, so that's the same, the next one, so we can actually just mark these. So that those of you who need this will have it. Not everyone's going to need this. You kind of, especially if you know the song, you can start to intuit these sort of things too, and you just keep playing until you get to the next chord change. Another great example of that was this, It Took Me 4 Days to Hitchhike from Saginaw. There's a bunch of them in there, a bunch of D's. It took me 4 days to hitchhike from Saginaw. So it, for, hitch, and sag. So there's 4 in there. And that is something that, if you know the song, you might not even notice that you just did that. But if you're thinking, which is what I said to you incorrectly before we started playing through it, that every time you see the chord you only play a 3-beat pattern, then it can get very confusing very fast. So let's see, are there any of those other ones we want to write down? Laughing, 2, 3, laughing on the bus. There's 4 of those too. So let's mark that as well. And then she said the man in the gabardine suit was a... So there's 4 there. That's good. Are there 4 in the next one? I said be careful, his bow tie is really... Yes. So I said be careful, his bow tie is really... There's 4 there as well. I don't know that I'll actually write these all in, because you know what, it would get really long lines and it would look pretty clunky to have 4 C major 7s going in across there. But it probably does help to have these written off to the side. I actually did that at the end of these lines with faces and spy. You see G major 7 times 2, G major 7 times 3. So I just wasn't consistent. Again, because I was writing this for myself and a few people who might have asked me for it. I was not necessarily thinking about teaching when I was working on this song. So I looked at the scenery. Okay, that was the wrong note to sing, but that's another one where there's 2. And counting the cars on the New Jersey Turnpike probably also has 4. Counting the cars on the New Jersey Turnpike. That was 4. That makes sense because that's kind of the same line with different lyrics. So let's move this down here. Oops. I'm just doing this live with you because I think it's a good teaching moment, also to talk about this while we're doing the lesson. All right. If we see any more like that, we can always fill them in too, so that you'll have it before we start. But since this is like future me versus the me that's recording right now, you'll get the chord sheet with this already written in on it, and then you'll get to watch me writing it in, which you may have skipped ahead already and no one's listening to me anymore. That's okay too. So we went through the single strums, and you could play this song on a single strum all the way through. You do not have to do a chord pad, like a strumming pattern rather. You can just start with the single strums, or you could play single strums forever. It is kind of up to you when you feel like you want to add in more strumming. But when you're ready to add in more strumming, a great way to do it is to keep it slow and work with that strumming pattern until it's feeling real natural to you before you try to get the song up to speed. This song does not go super fast, but there is a fair amount of chord movement in it. So you might want to keep it slow for a while, or again, you may want to stay on those single strums if that's what makes it more possible for you. So when we get to the down, down, up, down, up, every time we have a 3-beat pattern, which as you know now that we just talked about, on some of these lines you're going to get 4 of those, for example, and It Took Me 4 Days to Hitchhike from Saginaw. You'll do down, down, up every time you have one of those 3-beat patterns. So that would be the strum that I recommend you trying if single strums is either not interesting to you or you just want to try another thing. You can always mix and match. You could also just do down, down, down. You don't have to throw those ups in there. You could do it the same rhythm, and I'll do it on the G chord. Down, down, up, like it's written here, or down, 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 let us be, etc. So you can do other 3-beat things. You could pick this song. I didn't pick it, you know, when I made this arrangement. There's various ways you can play around with picking. You could also speed it up, so you're picking more of the rhythm, like you're filling it in more, so you could play around with different picking patterns for this too. And if you want some ideas of picking patterns, let me know, I'll put them in the comments. But for now, let's play through a couple sections of this with that strumming pattern so you can practice. Let's start with the intro into the first verse. So let's try doing that with this strumming pattern. This is going to be a shorter lesson probably today because I don't have a lot of bells and whistles to this arrangement. I don't think this song needs it. So there's not a lot of changing strum patterns. There's not a lot of you know, percussive effects or anything like that. You could certainly do that, and there's nothing wrong with that, but I like this song kind of more simply for myself. I might mix up, like sometimes doing single strums and sometimes doing the down, down, up, down, up, or things like that, but I'm not going to go wild on this song personally. So let's just try the intro with this strumming pattern that I just introduced to you. 1, 2, and 3, and here we go. Intro G. Tag at the end of this verse. It's also the end of the third verse. Back to C. Let's stop here for a second. And now I'm doing this a little bit in a different order than I normally do it, but I thought it might be nice to try that. If that went really well for you, really easy, you don't need to listen to the next thing I'm going to talk about, and you can skip ahead. But I'm going to talk about moving from chord to chord a little bit for those of you who might need a little bit of strategy to move through those chords. So again, feel free to skip ahead to the playthrough if you want, but let me take this off the screen and show you a little bit bigger what my fingers are doing and how we can sort of economize, not move more than we have to, and keep our chords flowing in time. Because this can be really helpful, especially if you're newer to playing any of these chord shapes. So if we're starting out with our G, and I'm going to play it sort of the way I was taught, but there are multiple ways to play different chords. So if you're playing it slightly different, or if you're doing it shape up the neck, that's okay too. But I'm going to strategize moving through sort of the basic first position or simplest shapes that we often get taught for these different chords. So I'm going to start out with my G here in the intro. And this is a progression that will also be in the verse. So actually, we can just skip the intro and just start with the first 2 lines of the verse, because that is your intro, actually. If you look at those chords, same exact chord progression. So going from the G to the G major 7, I'm going to keep my index finger planted. I don't need to lift everything and replace it, because my index finger is already where it needs to be. I just need, and in fact, I could leave my middle finger here on the A string, but then I'd have to kind of squeeze this ring finger in between them. That's not comfortable. So I'm going to flip my ring and my middle finger and just end up placing down my G major 7 there. But that index finger does not need to move. And then when I shift into the E minor, that is a little bit more of a bigger jump. I'm going to take my index here and put it where my ring finger was, so that I can do a little stair step towards my face, because I'm a right-handed player, to get that E minor shape in here. So that's a bigger jump. I need to place that finger, but I don't need to hop it necessarily. I can kind of slide it down to the right string, the A string, and I'm going back to the G. So you could then bring your index finger right back here and swing around. So you're going from G major 7 to E minor to a G. I'm letting my index finger lead the way on all of those. If that's tricky for you, then that would be a good sort of progression to practice, because that's going to happen a lot in this song. Those chords, back to G, and then the next one's C. And my ring finger's hanging out here really close to where I need a finger for the C chord, so I might just move that one over and do the C, and then if I want to add the suspended chord, my index finger is now free to move to the first fret of the E string, and then just lift again for the coming back to the C. The second line is the second half of the third and fourth lines is what I should say. There's 2 lines that we just did in the first verse. Then the next 2 lines start out kind of similar, G to G major 7 to E minor, so that's the same. And that's when we go to the B minor 7. So from this E minor shape, I could put my whole index finger down. I could even put another finger on top of it to play that B minor 7. And then when I need to switch to the E7, this again is a little bit of a hop. So I could play my B minor 7 with all 4 fingers. And then when I play E7, I'm just sliding my index back, moving my ring over. My middle's already in the right place. I'm playing E7. But if I want to play the bar shape, I need to do a little hop. So I'm going to swivel and slide my index finger and then place the other 2. Either way is fine, whatever's working for you better. So you've got your E7 there, and then you go back and do the same thing again. So it's kind of like going from the B minor 7 to the E7, however you choose to do it is a good thing to practice, and then going right back to your B minor 7 again for the first time you do it. And then we end up on an E7, however we got there, and then we go from E7 to A. This is nice because your index finger's already close to where it needs to be, and so is your middle finger. They kind of have to swap positions but stay on their same frets. So for an A chord, I need to move my index to the C string and my middle to the G string, and then lift my other finger. And now I'm on an A. So you can think about going from E7 to A, and then from there, we're going back to a G. So this one is another bigger sort of hop, and I'm going to take my middle finger up here, place it to the A string, and then bring my ring finger around to get back to the G. So that's A to G is not impossible, but for people who are newer to that movement, it might be a little tricky. And then I'm going to go to a D. Most people will stack their D. Again, I'm going to lead, I almost always lead with my index if I can, because that's my strongest and most dexterous finger. So I will go in and stack my D. Then I'm going back to G. I'm going to do a little hop with these index and middle finger to get back into position for G. Again, bringing my ring finger around. And then we're back to what we've already done a bunch. G major 7, E minor, G. We did that at the very top. And then actually we finish out that chord progression the same way we did on the first 2 lines of the verse. So a lot of repetition, especially of that G, G major 7, E minor, G. That happens over and over again. So hopefully that helped you strategize that if you needed to. If you need to strategize the bridge, let's look at that. And again, if you don't, skip ahead. I'm going to play my C major 7, and then I'm going to play a G major 7 in the bridge. I'm coming from a C. Let's do that backwards and see what we can do, because C major 7 or G major 7 stacks on your 2nd fret, C, E, A. C major 7 is one of those notes. I tend to play it with my ring finger when I'm playing the G major 7. So if I'm coming from a ring finger C major 7, all I need to do is put those other 2 fingers down. If I want to step back 1 more chord, so I'm looking at what comes right before the G major 7, it's the before the C major 7, it's the G major 7 of the verse right before it. So you can go from G major 7 to playing your C major 7 with your ring finger, back to G major 7, just by lifting and lowering this index and middle finger there. So that's what I would do for that section. Going into the bridge, through the first line of the bridge, you'll keep playing G major 7, and then the same thing on the second line. 4 C major 7s, then 4 G major 7s. It's actually evenly weighted. Let's see, is it evenly weighted in the first one too? Left, the pause. 2, 3, left and on the pause. 4, playing games with the faces. Yes, so actually, let me show you this on the screen. I need to write in another G major 7 there too. It's evenly weighted. There's 4 C major 7s and then 4 G major 7s at the end of the line, because you do 2 here and 2 at the end of the line too. So that's great. So that's good to know. You've got 4 and 4, 4 and 4. 4, and then you've got some other chords at the end of that final line there. Great, that's good to notice. So you're doing back and forth, C major 7, G major 7, a bunch in the bridge. And then the very end of the bridge, you get your old familiar from the C major 7. And if I'm playing with my ring finger and I need to go to a G, I probably want to switch that out for my middle finger as I make my G. Put my G shape there, and then again, the familiar G major 7, E minor. Here's where it changes. You're going to go into an E minor 7, and you already have a finger that can do the E minor 7, this index finger on the A string, but I would find it uncomfortable to tuck another finger around that. You could do that, but I'm going to flip them. I'm going to go from E minor, then I'm going to bring my index down to the C string and flip my middle into place where that index finger just was to go to my E minor 7. And then C can be played with the ring finger again very easily, and then add your sus. Go back just by lifting and lowering that index finger on the E string. Make sense? If this is all new to you, that may have gone a little fast, I totally get it. Go back and listen to it again at whichever section you need to. Other than that, it's a lot of repetition in the song. We've already done some repetition, right? So that hopefully helps you strategize getting from one chord to the other. And if I miss something, a chord movement that you're having trouble with that I did not cover, let me know in the comments. I can always leave you a comment with some suggestions, or even make a short video on my Instagram or something like that if that's helpful for you. All right, so let's do a couple playthroughs. Again, this song is mostly about playing the chords and then adding that strum if you want to do the strum, or single strums if you don't, or simplifying it to 3 down strums, you know, that sort of thing. But it doesn't have to have a bunch of stuff going on. And in fact, most songs don't. You can play them as simply as you like, and it can still be beautiful. And what really matters is that you're enjoying yourself, right? So enough talking from me, and let's play through this. I like to play through these twice, once with the chords on the screen, so that you can see them if you want to, and then another one with the chords not on the screen so you can see my fingers a little bit bigger, my hands, and see what I'm doing if you want to come back and look at it. But as with all of these videos, again, you can change the speed on YouTube, take it slower with me, to move me faster if I'm going a little too slow, and the first time through I will do it a little under tempo, and the second time through I'll do more kind of performance or jam tempo, like if I was leading you in a jam, what tempo I would like to take if we weren't like being really careful with beginners. So let's just try it. Let's do it a couple times here. And then you leave me comments. Let me know what I missed, or if you have questions that came up for you that I didn't address, and also other songs you want to learn this way. All right, so let's try it here. It's going to be down, down, up, down, up, down, down, up, down, up, all the way through the song. And you can throw in some single strums and things here and there if you want, or keep it all on single strums, but I'm going to play it as written on the page. 1, 2, and 3. Oh wait, I'm going to go a little slower. We're just going to do a more beginner-friendly one for the first time, and then the second time we'll do a little faster. Here we go. 2 and 3 and intro. You could try playing E minor 7 for those E minors if you want. You may or may not like the way it sounds. You can try it if that's easier for you as a shape. Here's the verse. Let us be lovers, we'll marry our fortunes together. I've got some real estate here in my bag, so I bought a pack of cigarettes smokes a cigarette. I think there's one in my raincoat. At the end of this stanza, we'll go with a single strum. We smoked the last one, and now we're gone. So I looked at the scenery. Oh, there's two of these. I should write that in. She read her magazine. Two of those, too. We'll come back and write that in. And the moon rose over an open field. A little slower here. It's coming to a really contemplative moment. So we'll do a single strum, 2, 3, and single strums here for a change of pace. Cathy, I'm lost, I said, though I knew she was sleeping. Then I'll start the strum back up with these. Totally optional. I like that emotional moment. I'm empty and naked, and I don't know why. Counting the chords on the New Jersey turnpike they've all come to look for America. All come to look for America. You can pick the vocal up here if you want. All come to look for America. Outro. I would slow again, slow, melodramatic, and or dramatic. You could also end on a G major 7 if you want a more jazzy final strum. Okay, so what did we say? We said, so I looked at the scenery is also a ×2 on each of those chords. So it's 2 B minor 7s, 2 E7s, then another 2 B minor 7s, and then I've already written in the 2 E7s rather at the end of the line. So it's a little squished in there, but that will give you that reminder. All right, and let's do a little faster with the chords not on the screen. Okay, so I'm sorry, I totally forgot about that single strum section. I even listened to this song before we started, and I still forgot. So I do like to slow down on that Cathy, I'm lost, and do the single strums for the first line and half of the second line, just because it's a beautiful moment. It's very bittersweet. Just that being lost made me want the sound to be open, and that's why I arranged it that way. But you could strum all the way through that if you wanted. You keep going in that down, down, up, down, up pattern if that's simpler for you. But it's another example of why I think the song will work on single strums too, because you can be dramatic with it. You can infuse the emotion into it, and a lot of singing is emotion, as well as hitting some notes. But when you're playing it for yourself too, it doesn't matter if you hit every note exactly right. If you're feeling the song, that is what matters. All right, so let's do a little faster. That may have been way too slow for some people, and they've already sped me up, but we'll do a little faster for this one. Yeah, we'll take it at a little bit faster tempo. 1, 2, and 3, and here is the intro. You can end with the single strum here. 2, 3. Let us be lovers. We'll marry our fortunes together. I've got some real estate here Wrong note, Jenny, the Greyhound. Together I played a D. I'm really throwing myself off here. Sorry about that. Michigan seems like a dream to me now. It took me 4 days to hitchhike from Saginaw. I've come to look for laughing on the bus, playing games with the faces. She said the man in the gabardine suit was a spy. I said, be careful, his bow tie is really a camera. Toss me a cigarette, I think there's one in my raincoat. Smoked the last one an hour ago. So I looked at the scenery. She read her magazine, and the moon rose over an open field. Cathy, I'm lost, I said, though I knew she slept. I'm empty and naked, and I don't know why. Counting the cars on the New Jersey Turnpike, they've all come to look for America. All come to look for America. All come to look for Oh. Sorry. I ended on the wrong chord. Or I distracted myself by thinking about how I would love to transpose this up just a little bit more for my voice. So a couple times I made mistakes with the chords because I was getting distracted, lost in my own thoughts. What I will recommend to you, if you have not watched my Transposition series and not heard me talk about this before, or if it's just a good reminder for you, is that if you are playing this alone with no group playing with you and you're only responsible for your own chords, you could take your GCEA tuning, put on your clip-on tuner if you have one. I hope you have something like this. It doesn't need to be this brand. But put that on and tune each string up a half step or 2 half steps. So you could take it from GCA to A, D, F sharp, B. I think I did that right. But basically, twist it up 2 half steps while listening to your tune. You can usually take your strings up or down 1 to 2 half steps without causing a problem with either strings being too slack or being so tight they might pop. And that would bring it just a little higher for you in your voice. And I would probably take mine up 2 half steps or 1 whole step in order to make this really comfortable for me. So those low notes sound, they're notes I can actually reach a little more comfortably, and then have a little more volume on. And if it was just a little too high for you just now, you could do the same thing but turn it down a half step or 2. So that would be my advice too if you love the song, you want to play it, but this still isn't the right key for you, but it's almost the right key for you. So try that if you like. I hope that was fun for you. It was fun for me to share a little bit simpler song other than the number of chords in it, and one that I thought would be a fun one for the 4th of July. So thanks for being here. I try to post at least one of these every month, so you can see a whole playlist of all the past ones I've done, and there's more to come in the future. Leave me comments, questions, and requests, especially songs that I've already played, already covered, that you would love to know my arrangement of. Leave them for me so I know. I'd try to get through to as many people's requests as possible. They have a long list, a long to-do list, but I'm doing my best. So again, I will see you soon. Have fun with this one. See you on the internet. And take easy, folks. Take it easy, folks. Oh my gosh. You guys, I'm not going back and doing that again. Again, no editing. That's over. It's done. Bye, folks. See you soon.